Ooh, welcome into a really exciting episode of Just Another Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Just Another Chris. I sit down with Kyle Depew. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because he's the man behind Brooklyn Film Camera. Yeah. And also one of the organizers for PolaCon New York City. I've been wanting to get Kyle on the podcast for a while now, and I got to meet him for the first time this year back in May when I was at PolaCon New York City. And we chatted. He's just a lovely human, and I really wanted to pick his brain and learn a lot more. We talked about his background in film, how he got started with the Impossible Project, and how he formed Brooklyn Film Camera because of the Impossible Project. It's a great sit down. We have an awesome conversation. So enough rambling. Let's just dive right on into episode 24 of Just Another Podcast. Kyle, oh my gosh, the man himself. How's it going?
I'm good. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic. I really appreciate you sitting down, coming on, and having a lovely chat. And so for those people that might not know who you are, why don't you do a little short introduction? Who the heck are you?
Sure. Well, my name's Kyle Depew. I'm the founder of Brooklyn Film Camera and New York City Film Lab, which is now an entity that we passed off. But Brooklyn Film Camera is what I am ostensibly known for. And I live here in Brooklyn, New York, which is where obviously Brooklyn Film Camera resides. And yeah, I'm psyched to finally be on the pod, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so you're also part of PolaCon and with the Instant Film Society people. You've done, I think, two now officially with them?
Yeah. We've hosted 2 PolaCon NYCs, and we actually just had a call with Polaroid last week. And we'll be moving forward with a 3rd PolaCon NYC, which will be likely in May of 2025.
Yes, I will be back. This
Nice.
series was so much fun.
Right?
It was so much fun. Any information you can actually say, or is it too early to tell?
Too early to tell. I mean, I don't think it'd be dramatically different than last year's PolaCon. The same ethos will carry through, obviously, which is basically just getting people in the same room who have the same interest in instant film, across the board, not just Polaroid, but instant film, entirely. And it's in process, actually. There's been in the past some tintype demonstrations and things like that. The one big change that we sort of came away from is we need a venue with more natural light. That was like a huge feedback point last year, so we'll be seeking that. Otherwise, I think more of the same. Some live entertainment, some fun stuff to do outside of attending workshops, and man, just getting the people together.
Yeah. No, it was a blast. It was the first time I went. This year was actually the first time I went to any of them. I was at the Bay Area one, and then I went to New York. I couldn't go to the Texas one. I had plans, but I ended up going to Japan instead. So it was like the same time it was going on.
Argue with that. That sounds pretty fun. But if you can get to a PolaCon Denton, that's what I would highly suggest. That it's where those guys are from, and it's cool to see it like in their backyard, so to speak. It's a really good.
Next year, that is definitely on the docket. I'm putting New York in there and definitely going to make Texas work. Been meaning to go to any of them for the last several years. I've just never been able to make it happen. Now, going back a little bit to your roots, how did you get even involved with like the film community in general? Like, was it just a hobby, or was it more of a business turned hobby? Tell me about that.
It's kind of a funny story, and it's one that is like such a moment in time almost. I was living in New York. This goes back to early 2012. I at the time was shooting a lot of Polaroid. I was obsessed with Polaroid and had loved it for, like through late high school at that point, and then I don't know, it was like a, let's say, like 8-year love affair at that point. Polaroid had declared bankruptcy in 2008, so it was like in this really like liminal time, and the Impossible Project had formed, and I was following them really closely, and I was buying film from them back when it was like abysmal, basically. I don't know if you were shooting the film back then, but it was terrible, to say the least. But it was film, and yeah, it was this real moment in time in which there was a huge community supporting it, and it was a really exciting moment. And I was following them, and I really loved it, and wanted it to, succeed. Obviously, the death of Polaroid was like a really tragic thing in my life,
Yeah.
and I was living in New York, and kind of a little bit listless. I don't know. I was working at a bar, and I was bartending and making good money, but I didn't like it, and yeah, it's not a very healthy lifestyle to be
Yeah.
a bartender working crazy hours. And I was on Craigslist just randomly looking for opportunities, and there was a listing for the Impossible Project because they had a space in Soho at the time, and they said, we're hiring a clerk, and we're accepting applications. Here's the window, whatever, apply. And I couldn't believe it. It was like a, yeah, serendipitous kind of thing, and I mean, totally randomly found this. So I applied, and I got an interview, and I came with like an album of my SX70 pictures, and I brought my camera, and I just, at the interview, I remember just being like, I really like you guys a lot, and I know everything. I know, here's my pictures, and I think they understood that I had a deep interest and knowledge in the thing, and I was brought on board. So I was with them from 2012 to 2015. It might have been the end of 2011 that I was with them. I was with them in 2011. Yeah, I was with them in
Wow.
2011. And yeah, it was a cool, like, heady moment. It was this really wild moment in Polaroid history, ostensibly, because we were, like I said, I mean, the film was quite bad, but it was at this moment in which we were actively saving it, and all efforts of the project felt like this. It felt very important, and it was cool to be on the team back then when we were small, and we were just very like driven to ensure that the business was successful and that Polaroid film would continue to exist.
Yeah.
Which obviously it does, and
Still
now
here.
Polaroid as we know it is really just the Impossible Project being
Yeah.
called Polaroid, which is a
Yeah.
whole other story. Yeah.
That's a fun conversation I have to have pretty much every single day,
Right.
because we're getting new people into the hobby every day, which is amazing, and I
Yeah.
love it. And I will proudly continually tell the story of how Polaroid isn't Polaroid. Polaroid's technically gone. They
Yeah.
left. They left long ago, and it's
Yeah.
just the people that are or have like yourself that were just passionate enough about it to continue the torch, basically, and that's what they are now. They are the Impossible Project. Just bought the name Polaroid and have continued it
Correct.
on, which is pretty fantastic. How early on, actually, this is more of a question for me because I don't know. So Polaroid went bankrupt in 2008, and I believe they continued production of film for another year maybe, and then they were officially done. How soon after that was the Impossible Project formed, and then started making film?
That's a good question. I mean, it was, well, Doc bought the factory, bought the machinery, and
Yeah,
rented the factory really shortly after. It was at the
yeah,
Polaroid closing party in which the sort of arrangement was made, and that things were set in motion. It was 2009, I believe. It was right there. It was a pretty seamless
okay,
handoff.
that's cool.
Originally, it was, there was another project called Pola Premium, in which Doc made a huge purchase of expired Polaroid films, including Time Zero and like the sepia film and a lot of pack films
Mm-hmm.
that Polaroid was producing at the time. And he was selling them on polapremium.com.
Polar Premium.
And this, you'll have to fact check me on this. I believe the sales of that really kind of powered like the early
Mm.
Impossible Project efforts. But it was pretty quick. It took a couple years to produce a film that was sellable. It was decent. We called it First Flush. Um, but yeah, it happened pretty quickly. But I mean, to get to the point in which it was really a viable product took years, quite
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, if you the really early Impossible Project black and white film is all at best entirely sepia and crystalled, and at worst it has disappeared.
Yeah.
So the chemistry's come a long way since back then, but we were figuring it out.
Yeah. Arguably, still figuring it out. Exactly. Arguably, still not
fair,
perfect, which is
yeah.
fine. And that's another thing that people I don't think quite understand is that once that transaction or that torch was passed, they had to start from scratch. They didn't get, what Polaroid had.
Polaroid was a massive corporation, right? And so there were all these other little, little businesses that were formed simply to support Polaroid. And so when Polaroid went out, all these other chemical manufacturers and material suppliers and stuff, they either went out of business or stopped, producing the things that Polaroid needed. So, yeah, the Impossible Projects effort was pretty Herculean in that we had to, totally bring all of those things in-house or figure out a new supply chain. And it was a crazy, crazy effort.
Yeah. So, yeah, they said to reinvent the wheel. And I think they've done a pretty dang good job overall. I know I'm known to complain from time to time. Especially when I went to Japan, I did shoot primarily Polaroid, and the film wasn't doing the greatest because the weather wasn't the greatest when I was there. So it was hitting some of the Polaroids, like what's the word, like it was like its kryptonite, if you will. It wasn't the best weather conditions. It was hot and humid, overcast, and Polaroid doesn't do the greatest.
It's harder. It's harder when it's hot, because when it's cold, you can just warm the stuff, and
right.
It looks good. But when it's hot, there's not really much you can do.
Yeah.
I've known some people that carry cold packs in a little bag or something like that, but I've never had the dedication to go that far.
I've done it when I'm here. I wasn't going to travel with it. I had no way to freeze some ice packs. Actually, that's a great little segue. But weren't you guys producing some type of product a few years ago to help the developer with the product, or is that still happening?
We were. It's not still happening. Yeah, we were making this product called, oh my gosh, what was it? The instant. I think it was called the Instant Processor, but I'm actually forgetting the name right now. We were working with Negative Supply to make it. I think it was cool. I actually think it was a cool project, and I guess Negative Supply, if you're listening, I'm down to re-spark the conversation. But ultimately, it was. Well, I'll explain it to those tuning in. It was an environment that you could control. It was like a little box, and you could dial in the temperature that you wanted. And the thinking behind this was that we could create a temporary environment in which you could create ideal or desirable conditions for your Polaroids to develop. So sometimes that's warmer than room temperature if you want nice warm tones to your images, and sometimes that would be colder if you wanted cooler tones. And which also is maybe a learning moment for some people tuning in, that Polaroid film has a very literal relationship to temperature. So if you process your film in a warm setting, you will have warm tones. You'll have oranges and yellows and reds in your picture, which is generally more desirable than cool tones. So now that it's winter, if you're shooting outside, be sure to develop your film inside of your jacket. I go under the armpit, and I leave it for a few minutes under the armpit. Actually, my buddy Bill from college actually has a Polaroid tattoo, like right here.
That's so cool.
But yeah, literal. Oh, there's my cat.
I got a dog, so he was interrupting earlier.
Everybody say hi to you. I think she wants to go. Just toss her. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. So we were developing this product, and ultimately we decided to not really move forward with it. The retail price would have been so high that we thought, we're not really sure how viable of a product this would be, or how many people would actually want to dish out the money to get it. But I don't know. I think there's a way we could engineer it. It was also kind of large, like it was kind of chunky for what it was, and so we wanted to get it smaller, and we kind of couldn't, and we wanted to get it cheaper, and we kind of couldn't, and we thought, well, okay, I guess we'll sort of backburn this for now, but who knows? Anything's possible. We could kick it back up.
Yeah, it's a unique thing where you have like this really kind of brilliant idea, but it might be just past the prime days, if you will, because let's say Polaroid had this issue 30 years ago. When there was no smartphones or whatever, right? Everyone was shooting it more often. Then you'd probably be able to sell it at a premium, and there'd be lots of people buying it. But nowadays, it's probably difficult to get people to spend, even like a couple $100 on a box.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly. Exactly.
So that's a bummer. I mean, I would have bought it for sure. But I'm one of the select, like 1%ers, if you will, that would want it. But that would be cool, even if you did like a limited run, like a Kickstarter. And say this is a one-time thing, but
yeah, there you go. Maybe we could do that. Actually, do like a pre-sale and kind of gauge the market or something.
Yeah. What I do?
Make a prototype. I'll send you one, Chris.
That'd be awesome. I'll definitely be interested. Because right now, what I do is I have a little box, and I use those electric hand warmers.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And just put those in this little box, and then I put the photos. It works pretty good. Or have it just in your pocket, and you can put the photo in your pocket too, with the hand warmer. It seems to do a pretty good job for cold weather.
It liberates the armpit, so you can have both arms.
Exactly.
Use the armpit, you're like handicapped, like halfway.
I know.
Just a couple minutes.
And then I'm always worried about like bending or creasing the photo as it's developing too. So
you're right.
Eliminates that. But that's cool. I was curious what happened. That was announced a couple of years ago. So appreciate you giving us an update on that.
I appreciate you remembering that. That's a neat little moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious to see what would come of it. But yeah, so going to a little bit more of your photography. We're talking a lot about instant photography, but do you shoot other stuff like 35 or 120? I know you have a film store. I'm sure you got other stuff in there other than instant film.
Yeah, we definitely have it all at BFC. We sell everything from disposable cameras to point and shoots to underwater cameras to, a whole lot in the way of 35, and we sell medium formats as well. Polaroid is our specialty. We're one of only 2 places in the country that specialize in the restoration of vintage Polaroid cameras, specifically the SX70. As for my own photography, I shoot a lot of medium format. I have a 4x5 as well, a Chamonix camera that I love. But I haven't really been using that too much. I did bring it to Burning Man this year and took a lot of instant portraits of people, and that was fun. It was great just to kind of rip through it. I hosted an event, and well, gosh, I don't know how many people came, but there over 100 people, and
wow.
That was a lot of fun. But yeah, by and large, I shoot a lot of instant film. I have this here ready because I thought this moment might come. But yeah, this is my go-to, just a Polaroid Model 2. This is 600 modified, and I love this camera. It's a good one. And if anybody is shooting, if anybody's tuning in who has an SX70, I highly suggest that you get it 600 modified, as Polaroid is now, very transparently and publicly stating that they will not be making much SX70 film for at least a few more years, which is crazy. So
wow,
it's good to get the cameras modified.
Insider information. I was going to ask you that because there's a lot of controversy around converting your cameras. I get a lot of hate from doing it, at least just from the purists. I'm pro converting it. I don't like SX70 film, like the speed of it. Too slow for me. And but everyone's like the vibrant colors, blah blah blah. But I've also heard it's the same now. I don't know if you know that, maybe, or if you can even talk about it. But I've been meaning to test it. Buying a pack. So here's the thing: is apparently there's just an ND filter now built into 600 film. Is that true? Do you know that?
Correct. Yeah. No, that's correct. Yeah. To lay the
told you.
It's the same emulsion. It's just there's an ND filter baked in. But the color chemistry is the same, minus the ND filter. So there's no difference, and it's funny that there's still such an active debate about it. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's better to shoot 600 film. There's really no consequence to modifying the SX70, in that you're not going to be in an environment. Some people say, well, if I'm in a really bright environment, then I'm going to want the SX70 film. But in actuality, it doesn't quite matter, because you're only gaining 2.5 stops using 600 film, so it's not in a different, complete different territory. But nonetheless, the camera will, adjust for that, and you'll get a good exposure, even if you're on like a super bright beach in the summer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win, and obviously you get better performance in lower light situations. and you get to use the special edition films, which they make for 600, but they never make for SX70. So
Yeah,
kind of a win-win.
it is. It is. Yeah,
Mm.
I've done several videos and people. It's just like the ultra purists that were probably around in Polaroid's heyday, like the original days, and when there was a big difference, and they're still like thinking that
Yep.
it's the same, and it's like, no, it's not actually anymore. So convert your camera, and here's the benefits for it. There's a lot of benefits.
Correct.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
meaning to.
Polaroid is saying that they won't discontinue SX70 film, and I think I believe them, but I also think there's a chance they could because I mean it's not.
It's not a big market.
Yeah, I mean it's a fractional market within everything they're selling. I mean they for every pack of SX70 film they sell, I don't know this is speculation, but I expect they sell 50 packs of 600 and 50
Right.
packs of I-type for each single pack of SX70. So to adjust the production belt to produce SX70 doesn't make too much sense.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, even if you have an unmodified SX70, you can still shoot 600 film with just an ND filter on your camera. So
Yeah.
I
Uh,
could see them making the choice to kill SX70, which would obviously be heartbreaking. But anyway,
yeah.
they've not said anything about that, and in fact, they've said the opposite, that they will not do that. So I'm hoping that's what happens, but
Yeah.
I also think it's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind it just because, like kind of you're saying, like to put that stuff into production, that means they have to stop production or stop producing 600 for X amount of time to make that special batch.
Yeah.
But I guess now it wouldn't be as a big deal because it's just laying in an extra piece of film. But if they did discontinue SX70 film, they should start putting back ND filter packs on their website to purchase because they don't have them anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Retrospect's the
that
only
is
place you can
true.
get them, and they charge a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. We gotta start making those, huh?
Yeah, yeah, they're charging I think $15 for a 2-pack for
Oh my
retrospect
God.
is, and
Yeah, sure.
compared to when Polaroid did sell them and they discontinued them, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, they were like $6. It's like,
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it might have been 8, but yeah, it was.
yes,
Well,
or
hey,
something
man,
like
when you get
that.
a monopoly on the market, you can charge whatever you want.
I
People need
know, retrospect,
it.
no shade, no shade, but
Yep.
your pricing is kind of crazy
Yeah.
on a lot of their stuff, but I'm glad they exist though because we need more shops, which leads me to
Yeah.
my next question: when and what was your decision to open Brooklyn Film Camera?
Well, I mean, there's been, I feel like BFC's had like different lives. So it was founded in 2015, and this is coming off. I left the Impossible Project to start Brooklyn Film Camera.
Nice.
I'll try to make a long story short. I mean, when I was at Impossible, I was kind of dreaming about something like Brooklyn Film Camera. It felt like New York at the time had, in 2015, it was a lot different. People shooting film were a definite minority, even among like the artists and the hipsters
Yeah.
and stuff. It really wasn't happening as much, nearly as much as it was now. And obviously, I was working for Impossible for 4 years or 3.5 years, and I learned a lot about Polaroid, and I learned a lot about just film photography retail and how to work with artists and how to, I don't know, kind of build something special. And I'm very grateful for that. And while I was there, I was thinking, man, this is awesome. Like I love that. I love the shop that we have, and I love this mission that we have. But there's just room for more.
Right.
I thought, and also at the time, New York had nothing like Brooklyn Film Camera. There was K&M, and there were these other guys, but it was like digital film, and it was mostly digital, and it was not a very fun place to go. And yeah, I don't know. I had this dream of something like BFC, and so I did it. And it's funny. I really had no money at the time, but when I was so I left the Impossible Project. Again, I'll try to make the story short. I left the Impossible Project, and about I think it was like 2 months later, my friend Wendy called me, who was still at Impossible at the time, and she said, "Hey, we're launching this new product called the Instant Lab, which is this thing where you can make pictures, you can make Polaroids out of pictures on your phone."
Yeah.
And we're kind of dreaming up this like U.S. road tour, and we want somebody to do it. We can pay you $5,000 a month, and you'll have a
Dang.
company credit card, and you can like make this cross country trip, and do you want to do it? And I was like, I think so. That sounds awesome. And hilariously, I was supposed to do it with this guy in Germany. It was this German guy who was supposed to come with me, and we were like in touch. We were talking, and we were preparing to spend like 5 months together on the road. And something happened with him where he couldn't go really last minute. It was like a month before we left or something, maybe even a few weeks. They called me and they're like, "Hey, like he can't go. Do you know anybody who can do this with you?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I asked. I thought of my friend and I thought of my brother. And my brother was living in Ohio at the time and was in a sort of funny situation. He was living in Bowling Green and he was in a relationship that wasn't really doing that well. And it wasn't not doing well. It was just kind of unraveling, I guess. And so I called him and was like, "Mitch, what do you think? Would you want to do this thing?" And he thought about it and he was like, "Yeah, sure." So anyway, the point of the story is I did this with my brother, and it was the most amazing experience. We were on the road for 5 months in total, demonstrating the Instant Lab. We went to all these camera shops. We went to Coachella. It was super cool.
That's amazing.
And yeah, we drove through, I think it was 17 US states, and it was this really extended thing. But so, point of the story is I came back. My cost of living was zero. I subletted my room in Brooklyn, and I came back and had 25 grand in the bank because we had a company credit card with a meal stipend, and
Yeah.
I'd never really had any money. And then I got back and had money, and I was like, whoa, I think this is the moment to kind of test this Brooklyn film camera idea. So it started pretty humbly. It was like a basement project where I literally was just buying cameras and fixing them up or cleaning them up and testing them, and everything lived in crates in the basement. And we would pop up on the weekends at the Brooklyn Flea, which is this huge flea market in New York, and it's listed on every what to do if you're a tourist in New York thing. And it was great. I mean, it was highly successful. We were making good money, and we were more than that, just getting the name out there in this really in this really efficient way. I mean, we would meet literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people per day. We were giving away a card to everybody who'd come, and this is also back sort of in the early-ish days of Instagram, and so we were like, "Hey, you should follow us on Instagram. You should follow us on Instagram." And that was neat. It was a great way to springboard the brand. And things kind of moved forward from there. We got a studio, very very tiny little studio with no windows, little workshop, and that felt like a big moment. And then we kind of grew from there. We got a bigger studio, and then we got the studio next to that bigger studio. So we had two studios in this big artist loft, and then we started New York City Film Lab. And we had a third studio, and it started feeling like, okay, we need a bigger space for this. And then we 2.5 years ago moved to the current location of Brooklyn Film Camera, which is a retail storefront, and that's been huge for the project in many ways. It's been good. I think this is our final home.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I think I found you originally in 2020. And yeah, you were just like what looked like just like a little hole in the wall kind of situation. And I'm like, that's cool. He's making it work. Because I don't know if I remember if I told you, I used to own a retail shop myself. I opened one. Started in my garage. I opened, and then I opened up a brick and mortar shop, and then I ended up moving it and expanding it, and then I sold it in 2018.
No way.
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, it was toys and collectibles, actually.
Cool.
Bought and sold and traded toys and collectibles. And then,
cool.
But yeah, so yeah, started in the garage, similar passion. And I just found that media and content creation and interviewing people and making documentaries and stuff was way more fun. So I met some people, which I need to do a podcast about just that because it ended very badly, but it led me to be able to have the ability to kind of do what I do now. So I need to do a full thing on that, but that's a cool story. I like it. I love it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And I got to visit for the first time this year, which was really cool.
Yeah. When you were in town for Policon. Yeah.
I suppose actually it was a special duper trip because I was leaving that day. So I had only 45 minutes there, and then I had to go back to the airport.
Oh my god.
But I'm like, I gotta at
Oh,
least
that's
go.
right. Yeah, I remember that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really get to hang out for very long. I was just there
Yeah.
kind of do there, and I ended up buying the Polaroid Go, the Gen 2, because it had just
Oh,
come out
sweet.
around that time.
Yeah.
So I still
Yeah.
need a video on that. I keep forgetting.
How are you liking it? Do you shoot a lot?
Yeah, so I really enjoy it. It's really cool. I haven't really shot, honestly, that version 2, the Gen 2, I haven't really shot that much, to be honest. But the
Yeah.
Gen 1, I shot a ton of it this year, because I did a road trip to, ironically enough, Polakan Bay Area from where I live. So
Nice.
I live near Portland, and so I drove down with some friends, and so I did a little project where I'm like, "Hey guys, here's the Polaroid Go. I had like 30 boxes of it just sitting in my fridge of
Oh
film,
my god.
and so I'm like, it was like 2 years expired too. So I'm like, just shoot it all on this trip, just
Yeah.
wherever we're at, doesn't matter. Just have fun, just blast it all. And so we filled a mason jar up of just like of photos from that road trip. And that was like so
That's
much
awesome.
fun. And I think that's where the Polaroid Go shines, is just like stuff like that. It's not about like getting the perfect exposure, the perfect this or perfect that. And the Go is just like capture moments. It's fun.
I
But
like that. That makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, Go is a cool format that I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on, but I like it conceptually. I like that it's smaller than Instax Mini. It's the
yeah,
teeniest instant film you can get.
yeah. See,
Um,
and speaking of sleeping, I think Polaroid is sleeping on it too, to be honest. Sorry,
I,
Polaroid.
I would
You need to be doing something a little bit more. I've been saying this since the day it came out. They need to make it kind of like a novelty. A little bit of what you just said. It's the
uh,
smallest. It's the world's smallest instant film, right?
yeah,
That's on the
yeah.
market. Capitalize on that. Bring back miniature versions of like the older cameras, like like bring back like a Sun 660 or whatever, but it's a little flip up
A
flash and
little
stuff.
mini like clamshell
Exactly,
Polaroid.
or make it folding, not necessarily an SX70, but like make it to where like it's compact a little bit more, and like
Yeah,
fit your pocket. Something utilize that film, because that there's money to be made right there.
yeah. I mean, I think they're embracing like the Instax Mini model, which is like we don't really need a professional camera for this. It's kind of for amateurs, and which is fine. It's fine for me, but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing like a higher end camera for it too. I'm
Yeah,
doubtful that'll happen, but let's see.
yeah. People are wanting the higher end too. I'm like, I don't think we need it. I think we just need it to be fun.
Yeah,
Even if they made like I said, like copies of, or like the Barbie camera. I mean, probably not that one, because they'd have to get licensing and all that stuff. But who
sure.
knows? It could happen. But like make that one just miniature, for the Go
Yeah,
film. I think that'd be just so much fun. Or
totally.
but I can dream. Get me in
A
Polaroid. Hire
man
me.
can.
Hire me, Polaroid. I've got ideas.
Mhm.
So I do have a couple audience questions.
Oh,
Thought
right.
we'll throw them your way. I should have had those set up. Oops. Now I gotta find them, because the story is now over.
That's it.
This is perfect, because this kind of goes into some of the products that you guys carry, at least as of when I was there. I saw it on the store shelves. So this question comes courtesy of Jen Greenwood Creative. What is the best 3D printed attachment that you recommend?
For for
It just
what?
says nothing, just in general. So since we're mostly talking about instant photography, let's talk about that. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, what comes to mind is, I mean, the SX37, which is a product that we sell, and that was developed by Retrograde Engineer, aka Aviv Segev, the brilliant mind of Aviv. So it's a universal adapter for any folding Polaroid camera, and it, like, again, I'll pull my SX70 to kind of demonstrate. I have the adapter, but not with me. But it clicks on the faceplate here of any folding camera. So any SX70, any SX70 Sonar, any 680, 690. And it allows you to mount 37 millimeter filters, lenses, whatever you want that'll thread 37 millimeter wise onto the camera. And that's a huge game changer actually for Polaroid shooters. There's also another adapter called the 637, which offers the same thing for vintage Polaroid 600 cameras, or at least most of them, the clamshell kind that where the it opens and there's this little like support beam that you kind of click it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is far and away the biggest 3D printed adapter to come for Polaroid. We have a whole line of optics, that we call instant optics, which is available on our website and in store. And there's a whole range of cool stuff in there. We've got wide, telephoto, fisheye, a macro set, and a lot of special effects prisms within that kit. And they all talk to the SX37 and the 637.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, you did a demonstration of them at Policon this year, correct?
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I've done videos on all this stuff too, so any listeners who want to check it out, you can watch my videos. I will add, I don't own it, and he was supposed to be on the podcast, so I want to talk to him, but I'm talking Mario's 3D printed attachment for the i2 camera. That's my honorable mention. I got to see it at Policon, and I think that's a much needed thing for the i2, and that is the ability to add a cold shoe mount to your i2 Polaroid i2 camera.
Yes, Mario is a freaking genius, man, and the adapter is fantastic. We call it the missing accessory for the i2 because it seems kind of like they should have put it there, in the body itself, because the point of the i2 is to be a professional level camera, and they have obviously there's a like a flash. There's a flash out, but then there's nowhere where to put your flash or to put your controller, and so it just seems like kind of a no-brainer thing. And he designed this very elegant adapter that shims over the viewfinder, and we carry that as well, and that's also a huge thing for the i2.
Yeah, I talked to him at Policon, and we were gonna get him on an episode podcast, so we had to reschedule, and then that never happened. So I need to follow up because I want to talk to him about that.
Get him on here, man.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. The next question comes courtesy of Pablo Capo. Hopefully I read that right.
Capo.
If you have any, this is a good question actually. If you have a recommendation on a book or a movie, etc., related to the world of Polaroid, which would it be?
Let me think about that. I mean, my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but Christopher Bananos, who is an editor at New York Magazine, he's also an author. He wrote a book about Ouija, the photographer, and he wrote a book about Polaroid. I'm really blanking on the name. You could, check this and put it in the notes or something. I think it's called Instant. The story. I think it's called Instant: The Story of Polaroid.
Yes,
but I don't know. For whatever reason, I can't recall it right now.
Did it come out like not that long ago? A few years ago?
It came out a handful of years ago.
Okay, maybe it's a different one I'm thinking of.
But it's a fantastic book. Runs you through Polaroid history in a very fun and easy to read way. Chris is just a great writer and a great guy, and he's a complete Polaroid history buff. I mean, he's a real wealth of information. Come to think of it, he's the reason that the Polaroid engineers were at Policon this year. Oh. So Chris is a New York guy. I've known him for years, and he reached out. I guess it was like a month before Policon NYC this year, and said, "Hey, actually, I'm friends with these two Polaroid engineers who met at Polaroid in the '60s. They got married, and they, this gentleman John actually built the Polaroid 40x48 camera, or he was one of the small team that conceived of and built that camera. Wow." Which is a whole other sidebar kind of podcast we could have just about the ultra large format Polaroid stuff that existed back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris was instrumental in getting them to come to Policon, and his book is awesome. I mean, it's one of the better concise histories of Polaroid.
I'll do one more question here. I'm gonna butcher this one. It's kind of a thing where I just butcher everyone's usernames. Vera Thavane. Vera Thavane. What's the most unique camera accessory that most people don't know about but should?
Let's see. I'll keep it in the realm of Polaroid. Outside of what?
Outside of Avives, because we did talk about that.
Ah, yes. I mean, it might be the the one that jumps to mind anyway is that there was a underwater housing made for the
Oh,
SX-70.
yeah.
It was. I don't think many of them. I don't know any if anyone has this info exactly, but I know that they ostensibly don't ever pop up on the market.
Rarely.
Yeah, it was this box, this kind of large box, and there's knobs to do the focus and exposure compensation, and there's a lever to trigger the shutter. So you've kind of you load your camera, you get it set up in this thing, and it's like a bizarre thin box, and then there's this catch at the front to catch the Polaroids as they eject. It's kind of hilarious in
Yeah.
its clunkiness. But that's definitely been a SX-70 accessory that I've been looking for literally a decade, and have never been able to get one. And we had a fellow reach out. Forget how that even happened, but somebody reached out and kind of said, "Hey, I have the thing. Do you want to make a YouTube video on it?" And we said, "Yeah." So Ben of In an Instant, who's our creative director, made a video on this accessory, and we rented a pool and did a photo shoot. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, gosh, I think that would be my go-to because it's just like totally wild to conceive of shooting SX-70 underwater, and you can do it if you can get your hands on one of these very rare accessories.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I've seen only images, never in person, or even them pop up for sale.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
well,
pretty
check
cool.
our YouTube channel to see it in action.
Yeah. I'll throw out one just to give you guys another plug because I know you guys sell these, but a remote shutter. But for
Yeah,
SX-70 cameras, a lot of people don't know about those, and you guys have some.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we make it in three lengths. So there's a short one that's kind of just for people who are doing traditional long exposures. This is the reason you primarily want this tool, to not touch the camera, and because if you've got your camera on a tripod and you touch the shutter button, you can risk causing some vibration, and so that's what this tool seeks to solve. So we make it in a short size, and then we have, gosh, off the top of my head, I think it's 2 meters and 5 meters. So there's an extra long one that's a lot
Mm,
of fun because you can get yourself in frame. You can step way back into the scene and trigger the camera precisely when you want,
yeah.
which is a fun way to use it, and a fun tool. But yeah, we make those.
That's cool. It comes in handy
Mm.
when you combine it with the X37 with the 12x lens I've used on with that adapter because it needs a lot of lights with that lens.
Right.
So use the remote shutter button. It helps.
Is that I think I've seen Aviv post that. Is it just like a super long
Yeah.
tube telephoto? That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Right. Yeah. It is.
Like,
It's pretty cool.
do you just have to go all the way to white on the
Pretty
dial? Just
much.
give it like half stops.
I mean, not always. It depends because if your camera's not converted to shoot 600, then if it's not, then yeah, definitely all the way cranked over to
Yeah,
exposure comp. On 600, I have done it handheld and it came out okay. It's just
nice.
slightly blurry, but on a tripod with the remote shutter, you can get much better results because you can crank up the exposure comp a little bit.
Yeah.
It gives pretty
Wow,
unique
that's fun.
portrait shots. You have to be pretty
Yeah.
far away though. I mean, the focus breathing on that thing is like it's like 12 feet or 15 feet or something like that. It's crazy, but you
Oh
can get
my
some
God.
pretty
Yeah.
unique portrait shots with
Yeah.
it. I've done a
Yeah.
few of them. I've done a video on that too, combining them. But
Okay, I gotta check it out. I didn't know you did that.
yeah, it came out a couple years ago. I was visiting. I was in Cleveland working a job. I was building a production studio for somebody, and then my friend, one of my best friends, Nop Top, he's a YouTuber, lives in near Columbus, Ohio, near that area. And so he drove up, picked me up, and we hung out for like a few extra days, and we just shot a bunch of like experimental like ideas that we had, and that was one of them. And
Nice.
he also built some camera with crazy wide angle lens onto like a box, the button. It built it onto the button
Oh
camera.
wow.
It was really cool. But yeah, a little digress
Nice.
there.
Modded a button.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm grateful for being on the pod, for you having me on here. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm psyched we finally found the time to carve it out.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, here's to the future of Polaroid and, the future of instant film. I think there's something, if I had a thesis about it, I mean, I think we sort of need it. We need things like that in culture right now, things that are, real and that we can touch. And this extends, far beyond Polaroid. I mean, I think we should be writing more notes to each other, handwritten notes, and hugging each other more, and that we should be putting our cell phones down and really touching each other's hearts and relating. And I think there's a lot of that in the ethos of this moment, and things like Polaroid allow us to share moments together and to really, I don't know, experience things that feel a little bit more human and a little bit more personal and beautiful. And I'm happy to be a part of that small art revolution, and I'm glad you are too.
Yeah.
Eager to see where things go over the next handful of years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love hearing that. That's all I've been trying to do, especially more in recent times. Encouraging people to get out there, make art, spread the love, be kind to one another, and educate people, lift people up. Get people involved in whatever it might be, outside of photography, of course. Just in general, let's treat people nicely. That's all we need.
Amen. Love that.
Well, I appreciate you. I'll see you at PolaCon next year. Hopefully the dates get announced a little sooner than last time.
Yeah.
It was a little tough getting tickets, plane tickets.
Yeah. You know what? It was a funny bureaucratic thing. It was Polaroid their legal team needed to sign off on the exact language that would announce PolaCon, and it got gummed up, and it was this whole funny thing. But yeah, we'll be announcing it sooner this year. So
good. Yeah, I'll be there. Can't wait to see you in person again, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh man, I could have talked to Kyle all day. And in fact, we ended up chatting, I think, for like another half an hour, maybe even a full hour after we stopped recording. He's so awesome. And if you guys want to check him out, following what he's got going on, you got to check out Brooklyn Film Camera. This sounds like he's sponsoring this episode, but he's not. I just really like Kyle. I'm really glad I got to know him this year. So if you want to check out Brooklyn Film Camera and everything they got going on, I'll leave links in the description. Or if you live in Brooklyn, go check them out. They have an awesome shop. And thank you so much for listening and watching. Yes, this is also available in video form on YouTube and Spotify. Plus, extended versions of the podcast are over in the Spitfire Club, aka Patreon. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, get out there, make some art.